We're going to talk about a DAC. I know you see the gemstone in the title. I know it's a Denafrips Ares II. You know it's a Denafrips Ares II because you could read the title or the thumbnail, however you got here. And we're going to talk about an R2R $1,100 DAC. Now, I'd like to thank today's sponsor before we do that. Hart Audio Cables. If you haven't ever seen me use Hart Audio Cables, you don't watch this channel. Very unique headphone cables. I think they're only headphone. I don't know if they make RCAs yet. But all the headphones today on the desk are being powered through them. Hart Audio's a unique cable design where they allow you to interchange the end pieces. So if you need a 4.4 Pentagon or a 4-pin XLR or a 3.5mm or a 2.5mm or a 2.5mm balance, what the hell is wrong with you? I guess BTR5. You can order a kit like this. There's several different varieties of kit. We'll leave this here for the duration of the video so you can notice its bright whiteness. And you can get as many cables as you'd like and use just the one kit to set up to all your DACs or sources. Multiple types of end connectors. These are the specific ones for Mr. Speaker's stuff. They've got 3.5, there's more 3.5, different colors and patterns. Also, before we go on, you can go to their boutique section where they just make random pretty cables and you can buy them without any weight. So for $55, you can get a 4-pin to 3.5. For $70, a 3.5 to Mr. Speaker's connector. What the hell is it called? HC12. Apparently it's an HC12. And for $50, a custom HC7 to dual 2.5mm. And if you put in the code Mid-Year Gear 22 between the video showing you're seeing here and June 17th, 2022, you get 10% off on anything on the site. So thank you. That is a specific Z Reviews code. There you can get the multiple kits. They have IEM cables, interconnects, pre-made cables, all of it available to you thanks to Hart Audio. So get out there before that sale ends because that's a good sale. Anyway, back to a DAC that costs $1,150. So the company Denafrips actually contacted me and sent me this. So I'm going to be rather nice to them. I'm not saying I'm going to lie about anything. I'm just going to be nicer than I would normally be. Although I'm usually not so bad if something actually works. But I've got a thing with DACs. See, there's a line that I don't like to cross. And this is right at that line. The line is like the first gemstone. Because, I mean, you don't want to buy like a super cheap DAC, like $100, like a $100 DAC. It's going to be fine. Fine. F-I-N-E. Like your girlfriend, when she says fine, what's wrong, baby? Baby, what's wrong? And she's like, everything's fine. The loud fine. The capital letters fine. And you know that you could just let it go because everything's fine. Or you could dig and scratch at it more and all of a sudden things are not fine. So then you go up to like the $200 or $300 or $400 DACs and then you feel better inside and then things are actually fine. But now we're getting up to the point where it's like, hey, can I spend $1,000 on a digital to analog converter? And then things start getting big fine again. That's fine if you spend $1,000 on it. So the difference between most DACs and this DAC is this is an R2R DAC. And this is around the price you're going to find them. There have been cheaper R2R DACs. I think Shit had one. No, Shit had the multi-bit DACs. Nothing R2R I think has come out of the Shit factory. Do you think they actually say they have a shit factory? I would be really messed up. But there are only a few dotted, respected R2R DACs. Did that seriously just throw a $900 DAP on the floor? What? What did that? I don't even know where that was. All right, hold on. Before we move on. There's fucking ghosts. I had this here. Okay, well, moving on. We don't end Z Reviews because ghosts are throwing fucking $1,000 portable players on the floor. Portable player in the yard sale, maybe. No. No, actually, there will be another one of those in the yard sale because Linsol accidentally sent me a second one of those. That's the one I really fucking liked. The full model number. Yeah, you're the DX240 iBasso. We'll leave you on the desk so you don't... Nothing could have fallen. We'll go. It's fine. It's fine. Spirits are for spirits. Anyway, they sent me an accidental extra one of these. Not even a scratch. And they said, yeah, put it in the yard sale and send half to charity. I'm like, that's fine. I'll do that. So we'll be sponsoring a video with Linsol instead of Hart Audio, and then I'll have that in the yard sale. Not that one. One that hasn't magically fucking flown off the desk. God damn it. Anyway, Sorry, Denafrips, for having ghosts appear in the goddamn review of your DAC. R2R means resistive ladder DAC. It's different from a normal DAC. It's much, much harder to build a DAC this way. In fact, I found an image. I don't want to open this up because it's... I don't know how you open... Hold on, it's heavy. Oh, there you go. Slide these off. Yeah, no, I don't feel like sliding this panel off here and showing you the actual insides. No, that's a lie. Give me a second. All right, link to Milwaukee Fuel Series M18. That's how you take apart a, expensive audio device. So anyway, here's my first reveal. Oh, don't knock the keyboard off. Enough problems with ghosts knocking $1,000 players off. Here's your lid. We're gonna put that on the floor because if you're gonna talk about $1,100 DAC, you gotta show me some shit. So, because the pictures are abysmal showing the inside of this, like that's the best one basically. There's like this one, but no, we're gonna get way in there. We're gonna climb inside this bitch, which has currently got 110 running into it, so don't electrocute yourself. You've got basically a toroidal donut. I love the shape of that. You've got a whole lot of caps, and here you actually can see the circuitry for the left and right channels. Look how many resistors there are. They're just lined up beautifully. Altera Cyclone 4. It's very base. It's like, this doesn't look very complicated, but doing this and getting it to be correct, and if you read the actual page on it and how much, like how accurate it is, which, let me see, what are the actual numbers? THD, where's THD? So crosstalk is negative 124 decibels, which is, I mean, how much of this signal ends up in this signal just from being near it? Negative 124 decibels is pretty much nothing. We've got standard 2 volts and 2 volts and 4 volts. Oversampling, I know I read it somewhere. Hold on. I think, yeah, signal noise. Oh, total harmonic distortion plus noise is 0.004%. So less than 1/100%. 0.004% of distortion. Yeah, so for $1,149 reduce, in stock now, order from Vinshine Audio, you get what is essentially the hardest to make style of DAC. Like, I don't think is there a portable R2R? You guys would know more than I would. You guys are obsessed with audio, and I'm just like some guy in the basement who talks about it with anime waifus. We'll talk about why that's a police officer afterwards. I picked it at random, and then I realized I was getting very much disciplined because I didn't listen to the rules. And there are rules we have to talk about. But, here is what you're paying for. A nice little ribbon cable to the front. We should probably talk about the front and the back now that we've looked at the inside. This is very much like taking a girl to the back seat before you're taking her out to dinner. It's not the way you do it. The front has a power or standby button. I believe they told me that since it's an R2R DAC and it has to sort of reach thermal happiness, R2R DACs are some of those DACs that you have to leave on for days for them to be happy. Like, it's a mental health thing. They need mental health days to be happy. And once they're happy, then they sound how they're supposed to sound. I believe this is measurable. If someone wants to link measurements or tell me how to fucking check that, like if I plugged in an R2R DAC and measured signals within 20 seconds and then waited a day and then waited 5 days and then waited 25 days, would those signals measure differently if the environment hadn't changed? So you got a standby button, and I just leave it on. Like, there's no heat generated from this. It's got that big toroidal, but there's nothing that's actually like pushing a lot of voltage. Voltage is obviously coming out of the XLRs and the RCAs, but it's not like gonna murder you. Wow, look at the size of those blobs. The blobs on the right angles here are huge to get up this panel. I guess that's one way to do it. So yeah, the front has a standby button, a little tiny power light over our standby light, little pinhole there that would turn red if I turned it off. And then we come to the right and you have 7 buttons. And these 7 buttons are quite simply your input select. You have USB, coaxial 1, coaxial 2, optical 1, optical 2, phase, and mute. And mute, mutes. Not many DACs with a mute function, so that's unique in its own way. And then phase will invert the phase if you want to invert the phase of the signal, which is a weird audiophile personal preference thing. So probably not going to be used by you, but you can touch it. It doesn't cost you anything to touch it. I touched it. And then I touched it again. Okay. So now, any of these are not hooked up. I have this hooked up. Let's pause AC/DC for a second. So you get lights above it. You get 7 lights above it and 7 LEDs below it, and you could see them. They're very, very small pinholes. And currently it's showing me I'm on coaxial 1, 44.1, because this is just standard flax playing, and 1x multiplier. So the way that this tells you what your bit depth is, or your kilohertz, is, I should say, and let's see if I go to my 24-bit stuff. So currently it says 44.1 times 1, which is what it is. So if I go to this track, now it's 48K times 2. 48 times 2 is 96. Do I have something that's like 178? I'm going to shuffle around this folder. Cello tone. No. 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 I don't think I have anything crazy. Oh, 44.1. We have some 44.1s in here. And 48.2. 48 times 2. 48 times 2. Yeah, I don't think we have anything like crazy high end to plug into this, although we do have DSD light here and it goes up to 8x. So I'm imagining that would be sort of like the crazy 354 like DSD files that would just show you the multiplication. You got to do math. There's a Wordle puzzle on the front of your DAC. It lets you do math. It's like, well, today's music is 4x 44.1. 1, 2, 3, and you can do the math in your head. I'm not going to do it for you. So the front is very basic. You're going to find with this unit, it is very basic. Although what's happening inside is less basic. So let's flip it around now to the rear. And this is where it kind of shocked me a little bit. So anyway, we've got 115, 220 volt on the bottom you get to pick from. Nice big pointy feet that will stab into your desk, whatever you're doing. Though I had to put something under it. So we've got our power input here, full size. Power switch. Your input bay here. USB full size. Optical 1 in, optical 2 in, coaxial 1 in, coaxial 2 in. Your 2 RCA outs and your 2 XLR outs. Notice anything for an $1,100 DAC? It doesn't have AES. It doesn't have II2S. It doesn't have any Wi-Fi streaming. It doesn't have anything that I would even call an advanced feature. USB is the most advanced thing this has, and I'm not even using that. I'm just using coaxial digital off of the Singzer SU6 down there, which is the digital-to-digital converter, which works really well. So for $1,100, I would expect it to have something more, greater, better. But guess what? This is Denafrips' cheapest DAC. If we go to the page and scroll down, you can see related products. The Denafrips Venus, or the Denafrips Pontus 2 R2R is $22.49. It's $24.49, so double the cost of this. Then you got this one, the Denafrips Venus 2 R2R, $41.49, followed by the Denafrips Terminator 2. I'll be back. Actually, no, wait. Hasta la vista, babies. Terminator 2. $61.49. And then, just in case you didn't understand, there's the Denafrips Terminator Plus, which might go into the new sequels. I wouldn't want that. But that's $88.49. And then there's a power amp, which I'd actually love to. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because Denafrips is known for their DAC, for this DAC, for the Ares. Yet this is their cheapest item that they make. If you go back, did I click back? Can I click back? There we go. You go back and look at, this is all Denafrips stuff. And they have stereo power amplifiers and headphone amplifiers. I never even heard of the Artemis. They've got the Artemis. There's a Hestia preamp. You know what my wallpaper would be if I got the Hestia preamp? I do too. But I'd love to review a lot of this other stuff. This is the entryway into what Denafrips can do. And it's fucking good. All right? A lot of bullshitting about it's expensive, it's very simple, but I plugged in another DAC. I'm going to show you the amplifiers I have on the desk in a second. I plugged in another DAC to just feed everything signal at some point. And then I'm like, all right, I got to review this. So I plugged it in and I let it sit there. Because you got to let it sit there. I was told specifically you got to plug it in and let it sit there. I was told something else we'll get to in a second. But I plugged it in and let it sit there. And all of a sudden, when I plug things into it, it's like, wow, that actually actively sounds different. I don't care if it's better. All right, now better is subjective as fuck. I care if something sounds different. So if I'm going to spend $1,100 on a piece of equipment that I think you could probably get away with $300, you had better do something and not be completely transparent and I can't tell if I'm using an R2R DAC or not. And this does that something. Everything here is over $1,000, by the way. I don't think anything's under. No, wait. The Denafrips Ares digital to digital converter is only $749. It's a fucking steal. So, yeah. They make power amps and preamps and other things I'd want to play with. So if you're going to play with those things, you might as well get the thing that you're the most famous out of the way first. And this is what they're most famous for. Do I think this is good enough that it makes me want to hear the other stuff? Yes. So let's put this back down on the table, and we'll talk about why the police officer is a police officer. The other thing they told me when they sent me this unit, they messaged me and they're like, hey, you want to review our thing? Like, yeah, great. They go, okay, it's an R2R. Make sure you plug it and leave it all the time. And we don't recommend using the XLRs and the RCAs out at the same time. Just don't do that, because it could freak it out with different amps. And of course, I don't listen. I'm not a good listener, especially since the fact that I have a ton of DACs, including that Pegasus R2R. And one of the things I do when I have a ton of amps is I have to have the balance out of this go to one amp, and the single-ended RCA go to another amp, and the single-ended and balance and single-ended. So everything's going to two. And I assumed that that was going to be fine with this too. And I had it on this desk, and I had it on these two amplifiers. Don't fly off the desk again. I had the Emotiva, the new A2 Mini Bass X, which, by the way, I built this cable for. Look how beautiful this is. There's a video on the second channel. If you haven't been to my second channel is basically where I can do things I don't think will fly on this channel, or things that are just going to be boring and repetitive and like super cool. So like I built this mica cable 4-pin XLR to, well, essentially it's the speaker terminals from the other end of a mica cable on the back, and I got this beautiful braid going so I could feed the Emotiva out balanced. And then I had it also hooked up to, which it is hooked up to right now, this JDS Labs EL2 Balance Edition. We've got these TRS-2 balance connectors here. So I had this amp and this amp hooked to this unit at the same time. RCAs to this, XLRs to this, and it was fine for a while. And then I shit my pants because the distortion that came out of what I thought was the Emotiva amp, to the point where I disassembled it. Like, oh God, what happened? Oh God, what happened? Because this didn't distort. This distorted. And after I pulled it all the way apart, I went, oh wait, I should probably try a different signal source and see if it's the Ares that's fucking it up. And sure enough, plugged in another amp, plugged in another DAC, which happened to be one of those Geshelli Labs, and it worked fine. So once it's the amp's fault. But I also noticed something else when I plugged in the Geshelli Labs. Those are the original JNUGs, not the new JNUG 2s. It didn't sound as good. I went, ooh, God, no. I went, what? I love this amp. This amp sounds amazing. With the balanced out in the back, it's like, oh my God, it breathes life into everything. It didn't sound as good. So I turned this off. I unplugged all the stuff in the back of it. I turned it off. I gave it 15 minutes. I turned it back on. I plugged one output in at a time. So I plugged just RCA into that, and it worked again. I unplugged the RCA, I plugged in the balance, and it worked just fine. So it literally went, don't do it. We asked you not to do it. They asked me not to do it. I didn't listen. I'm usually one of those guys, like, of course you could plug them both in. But I think the design of this DAC is such a thing that if you have something plugged into here, or here, I should say, not these two, this is another coaxial, something plugged into here and something plugged into here, and it doesn't like the way this is grounding, or this is grounding, or this throws a circuit punch back into the thing, it just freaked it the fuck out. So it's a little bit delicate. It's like a Fiat Abarth. Like, you can throw it around and it's massive fun, but don't hit a curb that high or you're going to derail it. So I don't blame that on the Denafrips. I blame that on myself not listening to the creators of it saying, don't do this. Well, I did it, and now I'm going to tell you in this video, don't do it. So that's why there's a set of RCAs sitting here and a set of XLRs sitting here, because you can only have one source out at a time, which kind of sucks a little bit. There's other DACs in the horizon that I think are going to be able to fix that, but for now, one at a time. So yeah, so now we're looking at this, and I really like the way this looks. I wish more companies would offer just like Lexan tops, because again, it's just beautiful. There was that one Questyle that had like a Lexan top by default. So the headphones I got out are the HiFiMan R9s, which are the big closed back that sound like 909s or 900s. I've got the Stellias, the $3,000 beryllium Focal Stellias, with Taconi pads, I might add. And I've got out my trusty old school non-modified to 1.1 Mr. Speakers ethers. Ether flows. So let's put these on. And these are plugged into this, which means I'm going to have to unplug this. That one's being a bitch. Slide that over. Okay. Play. Jesus, that was so quiet, it didn't actually start. These actually need high gain. Oh, that was high gain. Wow, these need a lot of power.
Listen to the tonal.
So, listening to a DAC is a pain in the ass. All right? I'm going to admit that as a YouTuber. Because you have two choices, basically. Either you straight up lie and say, oh my God, I sound amazingly different, and the creaminess, the mid-range, the tones, or you have to painstakingly stare at your waifu wallpaper while you're listening and listening on an amp you know, because I use this on its own DAC for a fucking while, and you got to not change your headphones. I finally changed the headphones for this review, but I was listening to them on the same headphones I was listening to those on. You have to, like, it's grueling work. But it's not that hard with the Denafrips Ares II. Like, you can actually just actively take a set of RCAs from any other DAC, well, most other DACs, and plug it in and go, okay, I'm listening to it. Okay, now I'm going to plug Denafrips Ares. Huh, that's actually different. It's different. It actually is a warmer sound. People say R2R isn't warmer. I think whatever R2R is doing affects the actual amplifier input differently per amplifier. So this DAC doesn't sound like this DAC on that amp. This DAC only sounds like this DAC on that amp when I have this DAC on that amp. But if I plug this DAC into that amp, the changes that I'm hearing are probably going to be different. Because I noticed on that, it's like a little bit too bassy. It like adds a little bit too much warmth. Maybe the way this is picking it up. I don't know. All right, there's some fucking magic in here that I don't want to praise it too highly, because then people will be like, Zeos, you're a shill, which they do anyway. By the way, merch store, expect Zeos is a shill shirt to be sold there. Remind me to say that. Future Zeos is a shill shirt, needs to come out. It'll be like Zeos is a shill, and I love it. Something like that. Let me get out of this 24-bit folder. I can't take it anymore. Yeah, no, this is, this combination, first of all, is amazing. Not that this thing had a bad DAC that came with it, but there's something just a little bit more holographic in the way it presents sound. Like things... Alright. Least bullshit way I could try to describe what is happening with this. When you hear a kick drum in a headphone, and this has only been a couple of the headphones, not all of them. It's not going to be every headphone. It's going to be like these... I think these were like what, $1,600. When you hear a kick drum sound in a headphone normally, it sounds like it's just kicking, like hitting. It sounds like there's just a sound that appears in one spot. When you hear a kick drum sound through the DAC, and this is some fucking shit, it sounds like something is moving forward to hit the kick drum. That's the weirdest. It's the only way I could describe it. Things sound like they're moving at you. So that sound didn't just happen. The sound sounded like it appeared and then happened. All right, I could be just high off my mind on drugs. I don't know. I mean, I should know, but I'm not. But that's the kind of weird shit that this is doing. So is it noticeable? Yes. Is it better? I don't know. That's the only honest answer I can give you. Because maybe that's smearing the sound in some way that you wouldn't like it. Because all I care about in audio, right, is that you do something different or better. Not both. Doesn't have to be both. Doesn't have to be both. You got to do it. If you do it better, you do it better. There's some specific thing you want to do better. You do it. Great. But if you can't do it better, blatantly and obviously better, then do it different. And now you'll get the same amount of respect from me. And if you could do both, you got on the Wall of Fame. Well, even though that's not really a Wall of Fame at this point, it's more like storage. It's so my insurance company will know exactly what I had in stock before the terrible meteor hits. I had all my waifus. I lost them all, Mr. Allstate, man. So yeah, I don't want to continue like drooling over this DAC, because it's just a DAC. It's just a DAC. I shouldn't be taking up more than 20 minutes of your time total on a DAC. But there you go. What are we at? Like 27 minutes? 27 minutes. I'll take 27 minutes. There's nothing else to talk about. It has no other features. It has 8 buttons on the front. 8 buttons. And it has no features. The only thing I could do more is plug it into USB and go through the fucking hell on earth I use. I'm sure to install the drivers for it. I wouldn't dare. We'll give a real quick another switch to this now. Hold on. We'll take these 2 out. And now we'll put the these, which I believe is it right on the bottom? Yes, it's right on the bottom. Oh, you hear the Emotiva click on because it has that auto sleep function. So now that's playing. Lower that. So now using their Hart Audio cables, well, this channel is now sponsored by Hart Audio for these few videos. Don't forget to check out their sale to June 17th. 10% off coupon. I don't remember the coupon, but it's listed in the description. I don't want to say it wrong. So here's what we could do with Hart Audio cables. You could take your custom yellow cable that you want. You could put your adapter on it. So now I have one of these, and then I can plug it into this, and now I'll have one of these. And I could use this lovely cable, which you could watch me make through pain and suffering on the second channel. Probably should unpause that before I raise the volume. Oh, God. Here we go. By the way, if you ever wanted to know what I was doing with these, I took them off the blocks because the pads are getting crushed. These are taped on Yaxi pads. These are Yaxi AKG pads, and they're fucking, like, they're just like, because they don't attach. It's a stupid fucking system that Mr. Speakers uses, and Yaxi, well, and AKG uses, so I just taped them together, and it's great. They're so fucking comfortable. Oh. The low end fucking that this amp can give to almost any headphone. Yeah, no, I think this is getting. If I'll double check that Denafrips is going to let this stay here, because if it stays here, it probably ends up on the rack, and it probably gets a waifu sticker because, or maybe I put it on the shelf just so I could pull it out for like a random thing. Because since it has 4 SPDIF inputs, which is a lot of inputs. Like USB, fine, everyone's got that. Usually there's 1 fiber optic and 1 coaxial digital. This has 4, 2 coaxial, 2 SPDIF. I don't think you're going to find another DAC that's going to have that many, honestly, except for the Geshelli Labs, which we talked about earlier. And then it has 2 in the front and 2 in the back, SPDIF and coaxial. So it's in good company. God, I wish I could have a plate to cover this. You know, it does good things to the sound, whether you think they're better or worth $1,000 more, well, $800 more than like a generalized good DAC. Take your pick. I've got a ton of, well, actually, those are pretty expensive because these DACs are like $700 a piece. The D90 and the Loxi D50. The topping D30 Pro is probably the cheapest, and the Pegasus, which is another R2R, which stays on all the time, is around the same price. But that has all the inputs that I'm looking for, the II2S and the NOS. It has the no oversampling. So this doesn't even have that, but it's still doing things to the sound probably more prominently than that did. So bravo to the Denafrips Ares, one of the very few DACs that I'm willing to do on its own. But then again, I get to play with a whole bunch of different amps, Musician Andromeda, Emotiva Bass X, which, God, I love, you don't understand. You need to put the reason this is going back there, by the way, in case you haven't figured it out, is that's a speaker amp. And even though it has the 1/4 inch in the front, if you do the page 15 mod and you get the pull out, this is still louder, even with an adapter. So this is like, more power, good signal, good. And I'm done with this review. Police wallpaper, police girl. Just telling you not to plug in 2 things at the same time right there. And also leave it plugged in forever. Like literally forever. They told me it's just never unplug it. And they said I think you can stand by it, but I'm not sure. And why would you if there's no heat? The only thing I've got is like a slight warmth coming off these resistors here. Or these capacitors, my bad. Don't like rub it around either. That's bad. Don't take the cover off, in fact. I shouldn't have even taken the cover off. I'm not a trained certified professional. But I wanted you to be able to see at least what you're getting, because that's half the fun of this job, is being able to open things up and be like, yeah. So yeah, wallpaper in the description. If you like these sorts of videos, if you want to see them early, Patreon and Subscribe Star, you get to see them early. You get to participate in yard sales, which, well, I know there's going to be one of those players that hasn't flown off the thing from a ghost in the yard sale, but other things that I reviewed during the month or during the last 3 months or during the last 3 years. If I'm like, oh, a company sent it to me, or they sent me, someone else donated things to the channel, they'll end up in the yard sale from the 1st to the 10th. Prices start at $0, and then I ship internationally for half price, or to America, to Canada at $0. I will ship for free. So if you bid $7.18 and then you win and you're in Ohio, whatever that thing is, $7.18 leaves your bank account, and then you got a product. You also get to listen to lossless sound demos in the Sound Demo Oasis and all the missing sound demos. I know a lot of people are like, Zeos, where's the sound demo for the blah, blah, blah? All the sound demos that have ever been removed from YouTube, you can get to their audio when you're in the $5 tier. It's in the Sound Demo Oasis channel. After that is a $10 chat. So if you join Patreon and Subscribe Star for $10, you get the behind-the-scenes Telegram chat, where I'm in there literally all day, every day. And you just at Zeospantera in that channel, and I will see your question, and so will the other 200 members. Those people help pay my mortgage, so you bet your ass I answer their questions. And it's great, because a little discussion starts about any question you have. If it's a private, personal question, like, hey, Zeos, my right ear is the size of my penis, it's this big, then you could just PM it to me. But usually, just ask in the chat, I'll see it within an hour, and everyone else can help you with the problem before that. So the $10 chat is great. And if you're in the $10 chat, you get into a lifetime swap meet channel where you can buy, sell, and trade gear that has over 330 members, I think, at this point. So even if you don't decide to continue being a patron, you'll always be in that swap meet channel to buy, sell, and trade gear of all the other $10 patrons, which is nice if you want to either sell all your shit because you've given up on this hobby, or buy everyone else's shit because you just started. It's a wonderful, it's a cycle of life. Anyway, I'm done, you're done, we're done. Check out Hi-Fi Guides and the Hi-Fi Guides forums, mostly the forums. Check out Z Merch. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Hart Audio, because every one of these cables, like if I was stuck in a desert island, I would need like 5 Hart Audio cable tops and a case of the bottoms. A case of the bottom, it sounds like something you get if you're in at sea for too long. I got a case of the bottoms. We got a case of the bottoms, and you can get them in any fucking delineation, all the way from, hold on, wait, did I close it? All the way from $39 for a basic one, all the way up to, I see an $85 one that's got every connector, including 3.5 balance, which no one uses. But they come in a beautiful case. You can get it in white or I think black. So yeah, no, there's some nutso stuff. With black case is $95. Touch of gray or red cables. So you get all those sorts of things, and you could do a custom shop order if you want to do custom cables. Actually, that one looks really cool. I kind of like that one. Anyway, thank you to Hart Audio for sponsoring this video. Thank you to Denafrips for sending in this DAC. Thank you to everyone else who stayed and watched all the way to the end. If you've bought Z merch, thank you very much. There'll be new Z merch if you buy all the old Z merch, because we're actually making it as we're doing it bad. We're doing it bad, but we believe in you. And yeah, waifu wallpapers, and we're done here. So I'll see you all in 2 days for another review, and thank you for stopping by. Whee!